Welcome to The Explainer. So, the World Bank and UNICEF just dropped a huge report, a whole decade of data on global child poverty. And let me tell you, the findings are, well, they're critical. We're going to break down what's changed, what hasn't, and what it all means for the future. So, yeah, let's dive right in.
Okay, so let's just start with the biggest question, right? How many kids are we actually talking about? What does this problem even look like right now in 2024?
412 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. To give you some perspective, that's more than the entire population of the United States and Canada combined. It's a truly staggering figure. And honestly, it's the baseline for everything else we're going to talk about today.
So, what does that 412 million actually mean on a human level? Well, it means that right now, roughly 1 out of every 5 children on this entire planet is living in what we call extreme poverty.
And it's really important we're all on the same page about what extreme poverty actually is. This isn't just some vague term. The official International Poverty Line defines it as a whole household trying to survive on less than $3 a day per person. And that has to cover everything: food, a place to live, water, healthcare, the whole shebang, for less than $3.
Okay, now, there is some good news when we look at the big picture. That number has actually come down over the last 10 years. It fell from 507 million back in 2014 to the 412 million we see today. That's almost 100 million kids lifted out of extreme poverty, which is fantastic. But, and this is a really big but, the pace of that progress has been incredibly, and I mean incredibly, slow.
And that's where things get complicated. Because that slow, steady global trend, it's kind of hiding a much more urgent story underneath. It's a story about who's actually seeing the benefits of progress, and crucially, who is being left behind.
So here's the first major twist in the data. Even though poverty has been falling overall, the progress for kids has been way slower than it has been for adults. Get this. Children are more than twice as likely to be poor as adults are.
I mean, this chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? The poverty rate for kids is almost 20%. For adults, it's less than half of that, just over 7%. And think about this for a second. Kids make up only about a third of the world's population, but they account for over half of all people living in extreme poverty. That's a huge imbalance. And here's another critical piece of the puzzle: where this poverty is starting to cluster. In stable countries, the child poverty rate has dropped a lot, which is great. But in places dealing with conflict and fragility, the rate has actually gone up. Poverty is digging in. It's becoming entrenched in the most unstable parts of the world.
And this split becomes even more obvious when we zoom in on the regional data. It really is like a tale of two different worlds. Just look at this table. You've got two completely different stories happening at the same time. On one hand, look at South Asia. The rate just plummeted from 25% down to 8%. That's incredible. Same for East Asia and the Pacific, a massive drop. But then you look at the Middle East and North Africa, and the rate has pretty much doubled. And Sub-Saharan Africa, it's barely budged. At all. We really have to acknowledge this. The huge drop in poverty in South Asia and East Asia is one of the biggest development success stories of the last 10 years, for sure. Countries like India and Indonesia have just been these incredible engines of progress, lifting millions upon millions of kids out of poverty. But that amazing success in Asia, it just makes the lack of progress everywhere else look even more stark. And that stagnation in one region, in particular, means it has now become the undisputed epicenter of the entire global child poverty crisis. Okay, get ready for this, because these numbers are just wild. Sub-Saharan Africa is home to about 23% of the world's children, okay? But it now accounts for a shocking 75%, 3/4 of all children on the planet who are living in extreme poverty. The crisis is just massively concentrated there. The researchers who wrote this report actually call this a lost decade for progress in the region. And it's easy to see why. For 10 solid years, while other parts of the world were making these huge gains, the child poverty rate in Sub-Saharan Africa just stayed flat, stuck above a mind-boggling 50%. And here's the thing. Because the population there is growing, a flat rate actually means the absolute number of kids in poverty is going up.
Today, there are 312 million children in sub-Saharan Africa living in extreme poverty. That's an increase from 255 million just 10 years ago. So the crisis isn't just stuck, it's actively getting bigger. So, look, after hearing all these huge, stark, kind of overwhelming numbers, it's really easy to feel like, is this just an impossible problem to solve? Are we stuck?
While the experts behind this report are really clear on this point, no, it's not impossible. In the words of UNICEF's Director of Programs, ending child poverty is a policy choice. The argument here is that this isn't a problem of capability. We can solve it. It's a crisis of political will.
And the World Bank's Global Director for Poverty backs this up. He says that, yeah, economic growth is important, it's necessary, but it's not enough by itself. That growth has to be paired with real investments in things like healthcare, education, and social safety nets, to make sure the benefits actually get to the kids who need them most. So what's the big picture here? What should you take away from all this? Well, it's a complicated story, right? We've made some progress globally, but it is dangerously slow. Kids are getting hit the hardest. And maybe most importantly, where a child is born, whether it's in a stable country in Asia or a conflict zone in Africa, that is now the single biggest factor deciding their future. Ultimately, this data isn't just a snapshot of the world. It really presents us all with a clear choice about the kind of future we want to build. Because if ending child poverty really is a policy choice, the final, most important question is, what choice are we going to make?